Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Gigawatts. I am Peter, and I am joined on this day by Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Tim's here too.
Yes. You sounded surprised.
So eloquent, Tim. So eloquent. So what are we here for today? We are here for Avengers. We're here for Avengers Endgame, only the kind of concluding movie to the 10, 11 year Infinity Stone saga, which is what they're calling it, or the Infinity Saga. So this is the big fourth Avengers movie, which was promised to kind of feel like a conclusion to that this 22 movie. Obviously, we're going to get more, but like we're expecting a lot of characters to kind of wrap up here. We're expecting a lot of these things. I think we'll have a very brief spoiler-free section, and by brief I just mean just general feelings and thoughts. And then we'll go quite quickly into spoilers so we can actually start talking about everything that happened in the 3-hour runtime and delve in. So I think it was the same three of us last year, or was Connor here as well?
I think Connor was here.
Yeah, and he was being all mopey about Infinity War.
I remember, yeah, I remember getting upset because he did not like it.
That guy. I'll never understand his life choices.
Yeah, he's not been to see Endgame. He has no intention of seeing it in the theaters.
Ever? That's insane.
He may see it in home video, but he's not seen Ant-Man and Wasp or Captain Marvel yet either, so he's not rushing at this point.
I like Captain Marvel. Ant-Man and Wasp you can kind of skip, I feel
Yeah.
like, but I actually had like two British gentlemen sitting behind me in the theater, and my thought was like, wow, like people are that desperate for tickets. They're like flying across the country to get whatever like showing they can get in.
Flying across two countries.
Yeah. So Endgame. Obviously, I mean, as much as I'm saying this part spoiler free, that's for Endgame. I mean, Infinity War ended with the snap, and
Yep.
we came into this very little. There's a lot of marketing, but very little in the marketing. They kept it played very close to the chest. They didn't show us a whole lot of footage, and having seen the movie, yeah, like the vast majority of the clips in the trailers was from the first like 15-20 minutes. There was like one or two shots from later that I recognized, and that was about it. So, yeah, that's just. I mean, I don't want to talk about the plot because I think the plot's completely spoiler territory. So I'll just. Tim.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Avengers Endgame?
All right, so there's two answers to this question, kind of. Did I enjoy Avengers Endgame?
Nothing's ever simple with Tim. There's two answers to this
Never.
question.
I'm waiting for this.
All right, so here's the thing. Did I enjoy the movie? Yes, 1,000 times yes. Did I enjoy my theater experience? Oh God. Oh God. I have not been having very good luck in the theater. You can see my past struggles with the Pet Cemetery episode. But unfortunately, I was dying to see it on Thursday, which was really hard to get tickets, even though it was literally the only thing playing at like any theater. But the only seats I could manage to get that like weren't right in the front row was a 6:30 showing on Thursday. It was in 3D, and
But you got dope glasses though, right?
The glasses, like they were, well, no, the glasses suck. They hurt my nose, and like they so they weren't comfortable. And then like if you tilt your head a certain way, like the screen gets fuzzy for like a few seconds, and I was just like, who actually likes this? Like, is there a legitimate audience for this, or is it just another way to to gouge people's money?
Yeah, it's extra money.
And like also, it's not like a 3D intensive movie. Like there was actually very little times where it looked like it was in 3D. Like there's one sequence that was kind of cool, but other than that, it was just so useless. So
just to clarify the point here, very few movies that are in 3D are actually filmed with 3D cameras.
Sure.
They're just post converted. So you get this thing where the vast majority of it's just 2D.
But so that already wasn't great, but fine, whatever, I can deal with it. What was driving me crazy was the person next to me that just had to they weren't talking, they weren't on their cell phone, but they just needed a clap every 5 minutes. And it wasn't short claps. Like, it wasn't like, yeah. It was like this, like, yeah, all right. Like, not even exaggerating. I'm like, and there's like, obviously, like, there's a lot going on in this movie, and there were a lot of really cool, like, geek out moments. So there would have been like, I'd say like, 2 or 3 times where I feel like that, would have been justified, but it was just like every time a character came on screen, it was like, oh, that's Iron Man. Yeah. And it's like, were you surprised that Iron Man was going to be in this movie? It was, and here's a question that I posed to you guys. Because, if someone is talking or on their cell phone in the movie, obviously that's very distracting and it's very annoying and rude. So I think it is justifiable to say something to that person. But if someone's like clapping and being like kind of loud, but they're just having a good time. They're not trying to be mean. So, but is it right to like say something at that point? Like, can you say like, all right, cool it down, man?
There's never a bad moment to yell at somebody. Like, those are the moments I live for.
This is horrible advice. This is what gets you shot. Tim, don't listen to Matt.
So, this is why I want to go to the movies with Matt. I feel like he'd be like my bodyguard. Like, he'd be like, we have a problem, sir.
So, and I'm a bad example on this one because there are parts of this one that get very emotional. And I was that guy that the guy sitting 2 seats from me looked over at me at one point like, pull it together, man. It is so. But at the same time, anytime there's like a big moment where there's going to be clapping and cheering, the theater, at least where I was, theater kind of came together and like had a silent vote first. Was like, is this the moment? Okay, everyone else is clapping. So
we didn't have that guy. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. And again, I think there was like very justified, and it's fun like when that does happen and everyone in the theater is on the same page. But again, it has to be quick. I think you get like 3 claps and you're done. Like, you don't go on for like 30 seconds.
I will never forget in the first Avengers where the wraparound shot happens with all 6 of them.
Oh yeah.
And the theater I was in erupted like we were at a rock concert. That was so cool. But yeah, it's time and a place. That dude that was sitting next to you, I probably would have been like, hey man, can you tone it down a little?
Yeah. And there's a very, very specific thing he did that was very funny, but also very annoying. But it's we'll have to wait till spoilers. But I'll get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, overall, again, a really great movie. I just had a really annoying time at the theater, so I want to see it again, and I'm very excited to see it in a a better setting. But all right, that's my take.
In a 2-dimensional setting, yes.
Yes.
Tim's quick "Did you like it?" answer took 5 minutes. Matt, how did you like the movie?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Like, I talked to Pete about this a little bit yesterday, but as a DC and Star Wars fan, I'm upset that I don't have the same emotional reaction to those movies as I did with this one. Granted, this is 22 movies. This is a culmination of a lot of things. But I can't I'm still riding a high off of it, and I saw it like 3-4 days ago.
I think there's a discussion to be had at the end about the impact this entire endeavor of 22 movies is going to have on the industry and like other properties and whatnot. But that was much more concise than Tim. No, I applaud. Yeah. Okay.
Tim's new nickname is Timmy Three Claps.
So
it's like this guy was like clapping times 3,000. It was insane. Like, he thought that was
that was bad.
He loved the movie too bad.
Yeah. So no, I like the movie a lot. It's great. When we get to spoilers, I've got a couple of logistical queries that I'm going to bring up.
And I think we line up because I was listening to a podcaster review it with one of his friends, and his issues lined up with my issues, which is super rare. So
I have a few nitpicks, but like nothing that really affects the enjoyment of the movie. No. Just more like questions like, hey, does this make sense?
There's a couple of murky logical moments that are just that I think need to be cleared up in future movies. But
the Herculean task of sticking the landing as well as they did, there's been some up and downs through those 22 movies, but for the most part, I enjoy most of them. So I never didn't think I wasn't going to enjoy this, but not to the level at which I did. I
think for perspective on this, I like phase one of Marvel movies. Like Iron Man was enjoyable. I thought it had a weak third act, but I thought it was enjoyable.
Okay.
I liked Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. It was engaging, right? I actually kind of like Incredible Hulk. I enjoyed.
I defend that movie. I don't understand the hate for it.
I quite enjoy it.
I really don't.
Not that good. That's why.
Iron Man 2.
I think it's not the best movie, but I like it.
Yeah, Iron Man 2 kind of sucky.
Awful, terrible movie.
Yeah. Thor. I enjoyed a fair amount at the time. I tried watching it again like a year or two ago, and I kind of struggled getting through it. Not because it was like really bad, just because it was like it felt kind of like I'm just going through the motions now because it's a phase. The origin kind of aspect of it.
That's on cable a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know which network has the rights to it, but it always seems to be on. So that one tends to get watched a lot.
So
I really like it. I do feel like it is they get like bigger and better as they go on. So I mean I feel like it's like that with a lot of things. So
but
when you're watching the earlier ones, it's not maybe because you're excited to be like, all right, this is cool, but I want to get to Avengers and the big crazy stuff.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it at the time, and I did not enjoy Captain America: First Avenger. I think that's still one of the weakest movies in the entire 22 films.
Oh,
right?
That's wrong.
That's a debate for another time. We're not getting into that just now.
Left him just going, that's wrong.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Right? But the first Avengers, because I enjoyed a decent amount of the Phase 1 movies. I wasn't so hot on Iron Man 2, and definitely wasn't hot in First Avenger. But Avengers, and obviously my Joss Whedon bias, maybe sprinkling in there. But I was excited for that movie, and it felt like a big deal. I remember going to see that opening day, and just witnessing the first ever real team up superhero movie, right? And as the wraparound shot, that entire last 40 minutes in New York, all of that stuff, it felt special, it felt big, and it's something that has not really been replicated since in terms of feeling for me. I enjoyed Age of Ultron. It's messier, but there's definitely stuff in there. Not really Justice League. No, thank you, Tim. And then Infinity War. I was a little bit down in the Marvel movies around Civil War. I was a little bit weaker on that one. But Infinity War. Infinity War was really good, and I feel like it changed things up, and I feel like it brought stakes into the movies, which I think were lacking for a while. Endgame is the closest I've got to feeling I did when I saw that first Avengers movie. I still think I prefer that by a smidge, because I think the special feeling of it just happening for the first time and just being like, oh, we can actually do this, and it functions. But there was moments in this, particularly in the third act, where it's like one big 50-minute, 60-minute, epic thing at the end, where I was getting that feeling. I'll just say there's a moment where the main theme's about to kick in, and it's very reminiscent. It's the bigger version of what happened in the first movie where that main theme kicks in. And I remember just getting hyped for it and kind of having that feeling in my pit of my stomach again, and it felt kind of special again, and I was kind of excited by that. And obviously there's a whole lot of plot goes up to it and everything else, but
and I feel like normally this might kind of maybe feel cheap or redundant in other movies, but there's so many callbacks and references to the other movies, but everything feels earned. In this, it doesn't feel like, oh, here's a cheap thing to get people to be like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Like a culmination.
Well, here's the difference. Here's the difference, because I often bring this up with stuff like Star Wars, right, where they kind of rely on the old movies and here's some nostalgia to make people sure entertained in case they don't like the actual plot of the movie. This is still the same thing. This is still part of the same series. The problem with Star Wars and some other franchises where they're always referencing back to the original movies. You watch a new Alien movie, they're calling back to Aliens, or they're Terminator Genesis. Well, we're doing that scene from Terminator 2. Wink, wink. You like this, didn't you, in Terminator 2?
Yeah.
These callbacks are no. This is still part of the same series. This is the third movie in the trilogy referencing the first one, except in this case there's 22, and they've got all these movies to reference, because there's so many.
A friend of mine described this as a 12-issue miniseries as a movie. because this goes through yeah, it's the last one, but it feels like smaller stories within this last big story. Like it was really well executed.
Yeah.
Well, I think the big complaint I see with people that don't like the franchise is that they think, oh, everything, it just feels like episode of a TV show or blah blah blah. Which I'm like, I mean, sure, I guess you can make that comparison, but I think everything stands well enough on its own if you wanted to, and it's just like one of those things where it's like if you want the complete story, you'll get more payoff, but you don't have to watch everything. It's not like no one has a gun to your head and be like, watch 22 movies right now. It's like. No, and I think like, well, if you're not watching all of them, like, are you really that big of a fan of like, these characters or universe? Like, I mean, it seems kind of weird to me. I guess maybe you can like just one or something, but
it's funny, Tim. I think it is kind of like a TV show, but for both better and worse. I think there's been some of the movies that have felt kind of lackluster because they don't feel like they're just justifiable on their own to feel like a movie.
That's fair,
but. Because I was actually talking to Connor about this yesterday. He's not seen the movie, but I was saying this to him because I was just talking. Is one of the things that movies never really were able to do before that TV could do, and part of why arguably TV might be the better medium overall, especially for serialized storytelling, is that movies never felt quite as emotional to me the same way that a series finale felt, right? The last episode of Fringe, the last episode of Lost, the last episode of Battlestar Galactica, the last episode of whatever, The Shield.
You've been with these characters
for years.
For a long period of time.
And there's this bittersweet feeling of saying goodbye where you know it's the ending and you're having to say goodbye. And this was the first time in a movie series where I'd felt that with a movie, where it felt like, no, we're saying goodbye to a lot of these characters. We're saying goodbye to this phase of the last 11 years. And what really got me is I saw someone on Twitter saying, oh, I was 9 when Iron Man came out, and I'm 20 now, and I've grown up with these characters, and I'm like, damn, I'm getting old.
So me and my wife got together in 2007. Iron Man came out in 2008. Thanks, Tim. We've seen every single one of these in the theater, some of them twice. So it's like this was, like Pete said, this bittersweet special thing that part of the emotion came from this is goodbye. And
credit where credit's due. There's some really obvious things they could have done several times in several movies up until now, and they saved it for the last one.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. So, but I think that'll do for spoiler free. Let's just get it spoiled because there's so much to talk about in terms of actual movie. First thing I really want to say actually is I want to talk about 2 characters in this movie.
Okay.
Natalie Portman.
Okay,
let's start with Natalie Portman. Sure, I wasn't going to go there, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I found this out today, real quick, with Natalie Portman. Is those scenes were leftovers from Dark World, and that she came in and did ADR. So technically, she acted, but she wasn't on set.
Well, it's funny.
Did she actually have any lines?
I think she said something when she got up, right before you see Rocket sneak behind her, which, by the way, I loved that moment. Here's the thing with the Natalie Portman stuff, though, is I didn't necessarily think that they didn't get her on set. I thought they did get her for one shot, right? Yeah. But the first time you see her is from a distance. She's at the door and the hair's covered in the face. I'm like, that's a double. That's not Natalie Portman. And I thought that was really funny. But I mean,
in fact, I think you're right, though, Pete. Your instincts were correct there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's true, but that's what I heard this morning was that she did come in to do some.
I mean, she was pissed at them for Thor: The Dark World, and I don't know if you entice her back, but saying, "Hey, if you come back, we'll let you be Thor." Like, I don't know, does that entice her? Does she hey,
I mean, we're in spoiler section now, but I feel like Tessa Thompson's got that unlocked now.
I don't know if she's going to technically be Thor though. She's going to lead the Asgardians, but I don't know if she's technically Thor per se. But who knows what the plan is with that. But hey, you're jumping to the end, Matt. Matt's terrible for this. He always jumps to the final point. So we get so much shit to go through.
Well, I'm just saying, Tessa Thompson's around. She did say that talks about Thor 4 have been repicked up.
Yeah, what she didn't mention is that she's Thor. So
maybe just a Valkyrie movie if she doesn't need to be Thor. But
so the 2 characters I wanted to mention that surprised me was how prominent and how much time both Ant-Man and Nebula got in this movie. Ant-Man, because I think this was the first time in the MCU, in one of the Avengers movies specifically, where it felt like... Is it funny that my cat's ears keep popping into the camera?
No, yeah,
I
can't.
No, I was thinking, like, did you guys see like that whole internet thing where people like, so for some reason people who are obsessed about Ant-Man going up Thanos' butt?
Yeah, that's how it ends. Is he goes and then re-enlarges, and that's the end of Thanos. My favorite one of those was a cartoon of Ant-Man bathing in hot sauce to make it extra.
No,
we're gonna make the pain last.
Oh dear!
It's just
So
weird that that's a thing.
So this was the first time in the MCU where in one of the Avengers, I felt like a lot of the solo movies felt more important than this one, because Ant-Man, like, as much as you said Ant-Man and the Wasp can be kind of skipped, the post-credit scene or the mid-credit scene actually feels really important, because like we only have a plan in this movie to even try and save the day, because Ant-Man's stuck in the quantum realm and comes out the van, which, by the way, the mouse is the biggest hero in the movie. The mouse saves the day. Or is it the rat? Whatever. Yeah. The rodent saves the day.
Disney.
Yeah, right.
That's actually quite funny. Yeah, that's why it's a mouse, not a rat. It's Mickey. Mickey's in the MCU.
Yeah, but no, like there is a lot of work to be done there with the quantum stuff that comes from Ant-Man and Wasp. Like, that's the whole the whole MacGuffin of that movie is the quantum realm.
Yeah, but it wasn't even just that was the because it's okay, they're going to use that to be the crux of how they get back to and solve things, but it was like no when Ant-Man comes out the van, we follow him because he's missed this 5-year gap like we have, because it jumps ahead 5 years. He's representing us. He's seeing the monuments. He's looking for Cassie's name. We see his daughter in this, who's aged up 5 years because 5 years have passed. And all this stuff, I was like, man, we're really devoting like a good couple of scenes here to really getting Ant-Man's experience here, and then ultimately the whole plan kind of comes from him. He's kind of instrumental. It felt like he was a prominent member of the movie, which given that I remember when Ant-Man 1 came out, I was thinking they might just kind of ignore it afterwards because it was meant to be the Edgar Wright one, and then they had to kind of redo it. I thought they might just ignore it, and then but then he showed up in Civil War. We got Ant-Man and Wasp. Like Paul Rudd has kind of low key became a really fun character in this universe, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that. And then Nebula, by contrast, gets like maybe some of the best character work in the whole movie, and I did not see that coming.
That's my wife's favorite character.
Oh yeah,
yeah. she
is she just a Karen Gillan fan, or does she really like Nebula?
She just really likes Nebula. She thinks she's badass and likes how like emotionless she is.
Oh. And see, and I've met your wife, and that's I would never guess that from her.
Yeah.
Oh well, she's my home girl. I need to root for her.
Oh yeah, you
with
guys
Nebula,
are
though, like
related.
I had friends at the comic shop tell me, like, in the original Infinity Watch or Infinity War or whatever the original story was,
Infinity Gauntlet.
Infinity Gauntlet, she's actually a pretty key piece of it, of the final part of that happening.
Infinity Alarm Clock.
But
it's been a while since I read it, but yeah, I do know she was kind of the like crux of the climax of it.
But the way that they've set her up since Guardians, it's she has this relationship with Gamora and Thanos and all of Guardians 2. She spends being redeemed.
Yeah, turning over a new leaf. Yeah,
then so I thought like, oh, okay, well, she's a hero now. This is the culmination. She'll stand against Thanos.
We play with this thing where it's like it's really sweetheart and Rocket. She seems to really care that everyone's gone. She wants to help, but we get this thing because of the time travel where we get old, Nebula and new Nebula, and new Nebula literally kills herself. And I was wondering if we're going to get like a thing where she fades away because she's killed old Nebula. Like, was this a sacrifice, like a genuine sacrifice? And it wasn't, but like I was thinking of these things.
Yeah, because of what Banner has said.
Oh, hey, about we'll get to this later, Matt. We're not starting this now. That's a whole section.
Because okay,
we'll talk about time travel later.
I'm still thinking about it.
Oh my god.
So, but I'm feeling that's why she didn't fade away. We weren't in Back to the Future.
So anyway, back to the start of the movie, right? So let's talk about the first 15 minutes because before the jump, right? I do kind of really like that they go and kill Thanos, and it doesn't matter.
I was surprised.
Yeah, it doesn't matter Like they're still lost because the Infinity Stones are gone. They can't reverse it, and it's like shit.
Yeah, because Thanos uses the stones to destroy the stones, and he's won. And it was a pretty cool takedown because you have them all going there to this planet, and Captain Marvel's using some great jujitsu moves to take him down.
Yeah,
they get his arm off with a gauntlet, and they're like, "Oh crap!"
Notably, no Iron Man, no, because he's like he's ill because he was in space, you know, and he's in a hospital bed right now.
And kind of playing off what Pete was saying, how he was surprised, how prominent Ant-Man and Nebula were. I was pretty surprised at how not prominent Captain Marvel was. Like, she's important in this opening scene, but then it actually felt like pretty cheap the way she just kind of leaves and is like, you probably won't hear from me for a while. Like,
Joe,
okay.
I don't know how you get Tony back to Earth if you do this, but I almost wish that you literally didn't see her until the final battle. When that moment in the final battle,
that would have been dope. Yeah,
the way I reason this though is like this movie's about the original six. It's about saying goodbye to them, and some other people get some time as well. But it's about saying goodbye to them. And I think if Captain Marvel did come in and just win the fight, it would have felt like a Deus Ex Machina because she's not earned that yet.
Oh yeah,
thematically.
Definitely.
Which that was her big problem in her own movie is the Deus Ex Machina element that comes into play there when she unlocks everything. So. And I get that, and I get them wanting to stay away from that. But yeah, all that press with Brie Larson saying like she's the one that has to be there to fight Thanos. She's definitely not wrong because she is there in the beginning portion, and with her, and, But Thanos again he's already weakened. Like he has half a hand, and
she plays an important part, but it's just you kind of think that she's going to be a major character throughout the whole movie, and it's not like a bad decision. Like I'm not like I wasn't angry about it. I was just surprised.
We're getting at least 2 more Captain Marvels, and she's probably going to be in a new Avengers trilogy. So we're getting plenty of Captain Marvel.
As someone that really did like that movie, I mean, I would have liked to see more of her, but again, like Pete said, this is the send off of the original 6.
Yeah.
This is
everyone else is a bonus to make this feel huge, and it's about those original 6.
And we get those moments with Ant-Man and Nebula, And
to that point, I also kind of like that Rhodey, by tangential relation, is also part of that original team because he was there from really early on.
Oh man, we fell asleep watching the original Iron Man last night, and Terrence Howard's there, and I'm just like, bro, what were you thinking? Like, you missed out.
He's like, next time,
Cheadle, I
not next time for you, buddy.
I do prefer Cheadle in that role though. Like he's anyways.
I think he's more likable, just generally.
Yeah. One thing I gotta make fun of though is I thought he had the stupidest line in the movie because early in the beginning, Captain Marvel shows up and they're talking, and I think it's Rhodey that says something like, "Hey, we're all about that superhero life," and I was just like, "This just doesn't
I'll give
work."
You that. I'll give you that. Clunky line.
Yeah.
It feels weird, like live action people calling themselves superheroes. I don't know. It just like
it's one of those things you don't want them to say it themselves. But and one of the other things I just want to mention about this opening before we go at the 5-year jump is I actually love the scene. 2 elements I loved here. I loved when the ship first lands. Captain Marvel brings them down. They get off the ship, and Rocket goes up to Nebula, like that little moment. But Tony holds Cap holds up Tony. He grabs him and holds him up, and it's kind of like their first real reunion since Civil War. And he's genuinely concerned, and he's crying and saying, "I lost a kid." He says that to Pepper. I think I lost a kid. Oh, yeah. And then when they're inside, and Tony it's because for a moment it's almost like, okay, we're going to forget that we were fighting the last time we met. We're just this is too serious. But as soon as they get in, and he's been sitting down for a bit. I love even though I still think Tony's wrong, I can't really blame him for standing up and saying, "Hey, I tried to shield us from this." You remember when I was trying to put a shield around the world in Age of Ultron? Not that exact line, but this was what it was for.
I tried to put a suit of armor around the world, and you stopped me. You did everything you could because you didn't agree with it, and look what happened. And I love that he was so bitter towards Steve about that.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. That's he is wrecked because of what he witnessed, and because he lost Peter, because he lost Spider-Man. I love that element of it. So we have the 5-year time jump, and people have been missing for 5 years. But of course, Ant-Man gets out the van, and he comes to the base, and we see that Rocket and Captain Marvel and KO are all in contact with with Black Widow, and they've got a bit of a network, and they're trying to move on.
I just want to say, I was like
Kelly Sue haircut. Nice shouts to the comics there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, I was like, I mean, I don't know if you guys expect this, but I was like pretty shocked when I just saw that on the screen like 5 years later. I was like, oh, wow. Like,
so I tried to stay away from, production stuff as much as I could, but stuff would slip through. And so that first trailer, you kind of felt like some time had passed since the snap. You kind of got the idea that they were going on this mission wearing these special suits and whatnot. But, I didn't think it was going to be a 5-year time jump.
Yeah.
We're picking up.
I'd heard rumors like a year ago there was going to be a 5-year jump, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. So when it came up on the screen, I was surprised, kind of, but I remembered it, and I was kind of like, oh, well, this is cool. They're actually doing this. And actually, we never even mentioned the cold open before the Marvel logo. Renner, Hawkeye, his family.
Oh yeah.
Because we all know it's coming.
Yeah.
We've kind of pieced it together from the trailer. Him running around, with a super cool haircut. Icing dudes with a sword. But
yeah, a good time.
I feel conflicted because I thought like Hawkeye was awesome in this movie. Like I thought he does a lot of really cool things, but God damn it, I freaking hate Jeremy Renner so much. Like I just I wish it was any other actor. I just think he sucks. Like,
oh man.
He screw that guy. He's a piece of shit. Like
Timmy's got heat.
He's like a failed stand-up comedian, and like he can't act. He's sexist. He sucks, and like
the hot takes are coming out of Tim's mouth right now.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I don't care. Screw you, Jeremy Renner. You just, but it sucks because I love the character is so great in this movie. He gets a lot of really good scenes.
Let's focus on Hawkeye then, Timmy. I feel like Timmy needs an anti-Renner support group like Captain America.
I don't have a problem with him as an actor. I don't really know much about what you said outside of acting, but as a presence on screen, I'm fine with him.
Yeah,
I don't even think he's that great of an actor though. Like even like I guess he's okay. Whatever, but
look,
yeah.
if I'm going to critique anything about stuff early on character wise, I would say that I actually think they need to spend more time with Hawkeye, because I felt like Black Widow goes and finds him. He's been his own himself, and he's taking out all these gangsters and whatnot in Yakuza, and she convinces him to come in this one scene, and then from the rest of the movie, it's almost like it doesn't matter that he was off like murdering like bad people that didn't deserve to live. And I like that idea, but I felt like it needed more time to really sink in that he'd really been down this dark path.
Man,
for the record, that
TV show, like, because he's supposed to be getting a Disney Plus series.
It's him and Kate Bishop. He's passing the torch.
Oh dang, okay.
So it's post Endgame for sure.
So. For the record, the that fight scene in Tokyo, that was like the one scene that looked really good in 3D, because like it actually looked like when the glass was shattering, like it actually had like depth and looked like the glass was coming out and stuff. So there was cool stuff in that, but yeah, other than that, 3D was awful.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah, but no, that open, that's when it first started to get emotional.
Yeah,
because he has no idea what's going on. He's on home arrest.
You see, his kids start fading away. The hot dogs start fading away. It's
well, there's these nice little late moments where they're arguing about if mayonnaise belongs on a hot dog.
It doesn't,
and whatnot.
No way.
It's stuff, and you're like, oh no, the snap has to be coming, right? Like, this is his, and then to his whole mission of taking out like big old criminals, because they survived the snap and his family didn't.
Can I just say, I love that while all the fighting's going on in Wakanda, Hawkeye is just having a picnic with his family.
That's true.
That really made me laugh. I was just thinking
Missouri,
about it.
Which Pete, you're more of the Age of Ultron guy. Was it known where the farm was before in Age of Ultron?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Because I specifically noticed on this one, the plates on the truck are Missouri. So, like, that was
maybe that was there in the Age of Ultron as well.
I don't remember in Age of Ultron, but
I don't think they say, but I could be wrong.
So yeah, we're swimming through this movie at a record pace here. So we're opening scene. So to jump into sort of the main gist of the middle of the movie, which is the plot is okay. Ant-Man's got this idea. Quantum realm, for him, it's only been 5 hours, not 5 years. Time works differently in there.
5 minutes, I thought. Oh wait, no, maybe it was 5 hours.
I think it was 5
okay.
hours, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, so let's use this. I've got like a set amount of pin particles. We can do this once. We can go back, and they come up with this idea, and they get Rocket in, they get Nebula in, and whoever, and it's like, okay, we have to assemble a team. And the first big thing, of course, is to convince Tony, and we find out where Tony has been this years. He's got a daughter now. We knew Pepper was pregnant from the last movie, and he's like, no, go away. I don't want to be part of this. I've got a good life now. I don't want to. But of course, Tony can't let it go. He has to try and solve the problem.
He has to tinker.
He does, and as Pepper says, the biggest failure in my life is ever trying to actually stop you. I've learned not to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the whole idea, calling it a time heist.
Yeah.
Oh my, boom, I'm in. I love heist movies. I love superhero movies. I love time travel. You're going to add all 3 in one place?
And it's basically like what I like is I really, really like Infinity War, and to me it kind of felt like a love letter to the comic books because it felt so over the top and big and comic booky. What I like about this movie is it feels like a love letter to the movies now. And this is a perfect setup to re-explore like the early stuff that kind of started this, and going back and revisiting these scenes. It feels like there's like a lot of really fun stuff you can do with that.
Yeah, and obviously they bring up a bunch of time travel movies. They mention Back to the Future most prominently, and I think Back to the Future Part 2 is definitely the one that this reminds me of the most, because the idea of going back into the events of the previous movies, and it's just to have some nostalgia, because we see New York battle again, a little bit of that. We see a little bit of Thor: The Dark World of all things. We see.
Now I usually
Guardians.
don't love like jokes that are just like listing pop culture references or whatever, but I actually thought it was really funny, especially when Ant-Man is like Die Hard. Oh wait, no, that's not one.
that's not one.
No,
they brought up Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite movies. Like,
Love it.
I'm getting Bill and Ted, Back to the Future. Like,
and it's like, okay, we had a team, so Black Widow was to get Hawkeye, Hulk, who we don't mention Hulk, is he's Professor Hulk, yeah, which actually
I loved it.
I do have a
So
critique here. I have a critique here though, which I think is a fair critique to have. Infinity War, they set up this problem with Hulk, where Hulk's too scared to come out, and Banner's trying to get him to come out, and there's no resolution to it, which I was fine with in the movie, because I thought, okay, well, we'll do that in the next one. We have a time jump, and it's just waved away. It's like, no, it's just been fixed in the 5 years. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, but I do like what he says though, is like he was treating Hulk like a disease, right? Something that he had to manage instead of being the opposite side of the coin. And once he came to terms with that, he was able to make them the one person.
The theory's fine. It's just that no, you spent so much time in the last movie. This was a conflict, and there needs to be a resolution to it. And skipping ahead is not a satisfying resolution. It's just glossing over it.
I think my problem was I don't mind them skipping ahead, but the complaint I have is I thought we were really gearing up for a rematch of him versus Thanos by the end.
Yeah, actually, that's. I mean, if I have an argument about Hulk, I mean, I like him in the movie. I like Professor Hulk. He's really funny. It felt like he lacked a big moment in the last act, and then. I mean, arguably the reason for this is because he's one of the few that's going to stick around as in terms of the original 6.
Right.
He may actually just be in more movies after this because he can be.
Right.
But it didn't feel like he got much of a resolution at the end either. So that's the kind of thing. But they get Hulk, and it's actually I was not expecting Taika Waititi's character to come back. I'll say that much.
Korg.
That was great.
Yeah.
I love that.
That entire scene is why. It works so well. I don't know.
Yeah. They go to New because obviously Asgard doesn't exist anymore. So they go to New Asgard, which is obviously in somewhere in Scandinavia.
Yeah, So funny, that's the same way. I think it's Torsberg, which is the beginning of Thor, where Odin holds off the frost giants, right?
Okay.
And then the same place where the church was, where Red Skull found the Tesseract in the opening of Captain America. So whatever this place is, it means a lot to the Asgardians. So it's cool that this. And I think that's also where Odin goes to die in Ragnarok. So it means a lot to them. So the fact that Thor brought the refugees that survived to this place to establish New Asgard, really cool.
Yeah.
Also, be cool if it's maybe maybe close to Latveria. Maybe that could
Yeah.
factor in.
Could be.
I have a sneaking suspicion they might have filmed some of these scenes in Scotland because in the background, so
Because you're in them.
shut up. Because Thor. So when they meet Thor, and we'll talk about Fat Thor and Big Lebowski Thor.
it.
But he's sitting in the corner at one point, and when he's sitting there having a conversation, in the background there's a bottle of Iron Brew the entire time, which is a Scottish drink, and it was like really distracting. I'm like, why is there a bottle of Iron Brew in the background? If it was Coke, I wouldn't even think about it. But there's a bottle of Iron Brew. Why is there Iron Brew here? So all I could think of is that they might have been shooting in the northern part of Scotland where all the islands are, and just
and to be fair, that looks a lot like Scandinavia.
It does,
you know.
So
just across the way.
So that was my theory, but Fortnite. There's a Fortnite gag.
Yeah,
Thor,
but
the guy's being mean to me.
yeah, can you deal with him? And then we have Fat Thor, he's let himself go because he's depressed over, not being able to stop Thanos the first time.
I would go further and say he's got PTSD.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And then he gets his chance in that first sequence when they get him, and he goes for the head, and he's the one that kills Thanos, and then. Just from there, he has that PTSD.
Because it's meaninless. Because he achieved it, but it was meaningless because it didn't solve anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's got this long, scraggly beard, his hair's growing back out, and he has never been more relatable. Outside the drinking, substitute that with food. And for me, I'm just like, wow, Thor, me and you are like brothers now.
I'm not going to lie, I thought of you when they basically lure him onto the ship with beer. It's like, you got beer? What kind of beer? That's basically
with me, it's just like, you got Taco Bell? Okay, let's go.
So they get a team together, and it was really fun. Him trying to because okay, we've all encountered one of these stones. Thor, tell us about the one from Dark World. He's like, there's Jane. Jane's lovely. Yeah. Tell you about Jane, and there's like in Rocket's like sitting there where he's like handed his face, and
you're like, wait, I'm not done.
Yeah. Well, see, and too that this movie's great on playing up at connections because they sent Rocket and Hulk to get him.
Yeah.
Right, like because of their relationships through the last 2 movies, through with Hulk and Ragnarok, and then with Rabbit in Infinity War. So again, like Tim brought up, these are kind of odes to the movies themselves.
And apparently, everyone in Asgard thinks Rocket's a rabbit because they're all shouting rabbit at him when he's running around. They get a team together, and obviously they build up to the actual plan. They do some tests and whatever. And there's some jokes in here. Obviously, there's a lot of setup jokes in here, and so on. Iron Man does agree to be a part of it, and he gives Cappy's shield back. Yeah. And that's kind of a monumental moment because it's like, no, okay, right, we're back together. The team's back together. We're going to try and do this. So here's the thing.
I love. There's apropos of nothing, but I just love the scene where Ant-Man's trying to eat his taco.
Oh, sure, yeah. And the ship, yeah. And Nebula's like, there's an idiot outside. Watch me land.
And then Hulk's so nice, he gives him his tacos, or some of his tacos.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. It was kind of surprising how much humor there was, given that it got a depressing tone for a lot of it.
Oh, sure.
I mean, the whole that when we see Cap again 5 years later, he's in the support group and just like moving on from loss and whatnot. And so there's this kind of bleakness to it all.
Yeah, and one of the Russos playing his third character in the universe.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was one of the Russo.
Yeah, the guy who was talking about his date. Yeah, that was one of the Russos.
And then, but yeah, so like there's this bleak undertone, but still they find ways for the humor, and I think that makes the humor count more, as when you can pull it out there.
Most of it works. There was one or two jokes that fell flat. I thought the Ant-Man asking if the kid wants a photo with them went on far too long. I was like, this isn't funny anymore.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, that could have been trimmed a little bit.
Yeah,
but
most
it's
of the
funny
jokes
because it's such a like jam-packed movie, and I think there's like easily stuff you could have lost, but at the same time, I'm glad it was all kept in because I can't really think of too much. Maybe then like a few things going a little long or a few lines here and there, but there isn't much that I would want them to cut out.
Yeah. So time travel thing
Bring on
happens.
the extra long Snyder cut.
Shh, hush your mouth. We don't say those words.
I think I heard the original edit was 3.5 hours, so maybe they might do an extended cut. I don't know. But anyway, so they go back. They split into teams, and they're like, there's 3 of them in New York during the Battle of New York because there's one at Doctor Strange's place. You've got the Cube, and you've got the actual staff, Loki staff, right? So they're all going to try and get those. Hawkeye and Black Widow go to get the Soul Stone, which this was the big thing I was thinking at this point, right? Because obviously they're both going. I'm like, wait a minute, like we know how to get the Soul Stone. We saw it in the last movie. Thanos had to kill Gamora, and I'm like, both of these characters though, one has a movie coming up, and the other one's got a TV show coming up. And I basically deduced in my head, well, Hawkeye's has to be set after because he's passing the torch, which basically means Black Widow's going to be a prequel. It's more likely that her movie's a prequel than his TV show is.
See, I didn't know his TV show was him passing the torch, so them going there, I was like, well, one of them isn't coming back, and my bet was on Hawkeye, just because you've set up who he's become without his family. And
it's such a double-edged sword because on the one hand I'm like, Hawkeye arguably's had the shaft more than any other character at the main six, so it's fitting that he gets to be a big part of the rest of the movie, and have the the reunion with his family at some point. Great reasons to have him survive, but it's kind of a shame that Black Widow doesn't get to go on. Like, there's the big moment in the big final battle where all the female heroes are together, and I'm like, this is so weird that Black Widow's not. She was the original one.
Yeah.
And she's not there.
I mean, she was introduced to this franchise before, like Captain America and Thor.
True, yeah.
She was, yeah. And she's so different.
So...
See if you go back and watch Iron Man 2, she's clearly not the hot, attractive actress they got just in like. Avengers Black Widow is the Black Widow that's stuck for the rest of the movies.
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 Black Widow is clearly just, we got Scarlett Johansson to be sexy and flippy.
Well, that fight scene in the hallway, we
Yeah.
never see her do anything like that again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's straight up like actual fighting.
And most of the jokes in Iron Man 2 are about how hot she is. You know, when she gets in the boxing ring and Iron Man's like, oh, hello, and like, yeah, we'll hire you, and and she was, and she has this guilt in this movie. So, and like, I do like her having to fight for like, no, like I'm the one sacrificing myself, and like I like that conflict. But
that little back and forth between the two of them was really good too, because I don't know who's actually going to end up going over that cliff.
Me neither.
Right.
Yeah.
So when they both go over, and oh man, it's been some real tense watching.
Yeah, honestly, right up until the end, I thought that they were gonna figure a way out of it. Like, because I mean, yeah, obviously we know what you have to do, but it's a movie. Like, they can always think of another way, or find a different solution. So yeah, really, right up until it happened, I was like pretty surprised.
Yeah,
like, oh, wow.
At this point, I was still thinking that like we were going to get Gamora back because she was inside the Soul Stone, and we're going to find a way to like get them back because of that. And then I thought, we'll get Black Widow back the same way. Yeah, but obviously. We end up with Gamora through time travel shenanigans, not from the Soul Stone. So we'll talk about that later. But
I have some questions on that once we get there.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. So we'll stick. I'll leave War Machine and Nebula, which it's weird that was like one pair. It was just War Machine and Nebula. That was a cool little weird pair. But we'll save them for last because they kind of lead into the rest of the plot, kind of, because they bring everything back with them. Okay. So Cap, Tony, Ant-Man, and Hulk go to New York. Yeah. And Hulk goes off to get the stone from
Time Stone.
What's her face?
The ancient one.
The ancient one.
Which we don't know at that time, because this is where I started thinking, wait, Doctor Strange wasn't Doctor Strange yet. How did they know the stone was in New York? You know what I mean? Like, they just assume he's Doctor Strange.
Is it just because that's her base? Or that's like where the...
Well, no, that's his base. That's isn't it?
Did he not inherit
I don't like
it,
that movie that much.
Yeah, I didn't like that movie either. So I don't remember much of this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, viewers. But
well, I mean, I think in terms of the comic books, that was like his sanctum.
Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah, and so like I don't think it was I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't read every Doctor Strange comic book, but from what I know, I think it was something that he set up. And also, yeah, I think the ancient one is usually kicking it like wherever, like not there. And that's the one that definitely felt a little off to me. And honestly, I think they could have found something more interesting to do, because it basically just boils down to being like, we need the stone. No, you can't have it. But Doctor Strange gave it away. He did. Okay, you can have it.
Here's what I think is interesting though. She clearly knows who Stephen Strange is in this scene, which I thought was curious. Sure. Not in a mistaky way. Like, I thought, it's interesting. She's already aware of who he is, and she's already kind of thinking about him.
But I also like
that it sets up that. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Tim.
Well,
'Cause-
if she already knows that, then shouldn't she know like everything else? Like, I don't know. It seems kind
well,
of weird to
I
me.
feel like she knows that through whatever machinations happen, that
Mhm.
Stephen Strange will eventually get there one day, but
Okay.
she doesn't know the how and the when.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And this scene is basically the one explanation we get of like maybe how the time travel's working here, because
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to.
we know it's not Back to the Future rules, and then in this scene it's basically like, okay, the time streams are kind of related to the stones themselves. If you remove a stone from the timeline, you create an alternate timeline. But as Holt points out, but if we put it back, you know, so that it's basically back within seconds, like, you know, things can go back to normal.
Which is Bill and Ted rules. Time travel. Because that comes into play at the end of Bill
Excellent.
and Ted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did laugh though, because obviously Hulk's going off to do this, and Cap's like, "Hey, you may want to smash some things on the way to blend in." So, so if anyone sees you, they just think it's the other Hulk. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it feels so
Smash.
uncivilized." Smash. Which I guess that was the other thing. I was hoping in the final battle that he would get not lose control and become classic Hulk, but like Banner would just
Allow
get
himself to be angry.
would just get angry. He'd be like, "No, I'm angry now, so it's Hulk smash time," even though he's
Yeah.
still in
Yeah.
control, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But,
That was a missed
you know,
opportunity.
yeah.
And to be fair, I guess maybe they can kind of write it off as like, you know, he's so damaged from wielding the gauntlet or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
still, it I don't know. It would have been really cool to see.
No, it would have.
So
Um,
the rest of the team are go to the tower, Avengers Tower, and we get like like aftermath moments with Loki and him
Yep.
being mischievous and whatnot. And
Iron Man hiding around the corner as to not be seen, like
yeah,
where he's not supposed to be.
Ant-Man's on his shoulder. We get a whole joke here set up with Tony makes a joke about his ass, and you know, Ant-Man's
That's
like,
America's ass.
that's America's ass as far as I'm concerned, and that comes back a couple of times, which is
Yeah.
fun.
Now, I forget. So, in the first movie, was the Tesseract and the staff in play at the same time?
Yeah, there were both two different
Okay.
stones because.
We didn't know that the stone was in the scepter, though.
We didn't find that out
we
until.
learned that in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, because that's the one that went to Vision, was the one in the scepter.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I like must have totally like combined them in my head or something because
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh wait, there's two of them. Okay.
Because the Tesseract is what Cap was looking for, right? At the end, chased him down, and then that's what they were making the weapons out of. So the government's had it since Cap went into the water, right?
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
since
yeah.
Howard Stark found it, and then in Captain Marvel, Marvel has it. That's what
Oh,
gives
right.
Cheryl her powers,
Yeah.
and then it ends up back in Shield's control because of Goose the Cat, hence being in the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got some fun stuff here where basically Tony and Hulk, well, not regular, because there's a joke actually where they make Hulk take the stairs, like the Hulk from the
Yeah.
original
Ugh.
Avengers. It's like,
But
okay,
again,
stairs.
Never more relatable to the Hulk.
Yeah. Really funny. I mean, the little jokes they added post aftermath of the Avengers were kind of funny, and so Loki actually escapes, which begs the question: is there a timeline somewhere where Loki's like free and like?
Yeah,
Well,
that's called his Disney Plus series.
yeah, because he has his own TV show
Yeah.
coming out, right?
Which and I like to.
But what's funny about that
Go
though
ahead.
is that he doesn't have like this is Loki before he's redeemed himself though in any way. This
Right.
is like right after Avengers
Oh,
1
true.
Loki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So that's
Um,
interesting.
So we'll see, but like, I like that we see why they put the muzzle on him, basically, that we
Yeah.
see at the end of Avengers, and then as this chaos happens because of it's Iron Man, right? Iron Man and his heart with Ant-Man. Is that what causes the chaos?
he makes him like have a heart attack or
Right.
Well, that's the
yeah.
plan to get the Tesseract, and they almost get away with it, but it's Hulk opening the door from the stairs that
Yeah.
That's right.
knocks out of his hand, and yeah.
And whatnot, and then you see Loki scramble around and just take off with the Tesseract, which then adds to Tony and Cap on their next part.
Yeah,
Paris.
and obviously Cap's part is really fun because there's a callback to the elevator scene because Frank Grillo's back. Even the guy who's holding the gun was in Winter Soldier. I recognized his face, and then the bald guy, I think his name is Simmons, maybe. No, Simmons. That's Sitwell. There you go. Simmons is a character in Shield.
Yep.
Which, by the way, there was no Agents of Shield characters. That's the one big disappointment I have with this movie. Anyway,
I felt it did feel like a little messed up to like not like you don't have to have them be major characters, obviously, but I feel
How are
like
the
they should have
ducks
had
in
at
the
least
final
some
battle?
reference.
Like you can just throw in the
Yeah.
TV characters in the scene.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
so Cap does the whole thing where he says he'll Hydra to like because it's setting up with the Winter Soldier elevator scene, and he gets out of it by leaning over to Frank Grillo and saying, "Hey, he'll Hydra," and I was like, oh, I wish this leaked out of context. I wish this just little
Yep.
clip leaked so everyone was losing their freaking minds at what they were
Yep.
doing.
That would have been great.
That'd have been funny.
That'd be funny.
And then he runs into himself, and we get Cap versus Cap, and like young Cap says, "I can do this all day," and old Cap's like, "I know." Shut up.
But there's a really good fight that even calls back to Winter Soldier because that looked a lot like the Bucky and Cap fight
Yeah.
at the end of that movie.
And then it ends with the young Cap's ass kind of like it's facing in the air, and he's like, "That is America's ass," as he walks off.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. It's just good. So. Because they screw up, they have to go further back in time. It's like, when else can we get this stuff, but also more Pym particles? Because we don't have enough to jump back in time and then go back to the present.
So that's part of the thing with going through the quantum realm is they only have enough Pym particles to get there and get back, but they also have these chrono trackers that Tony devised that are like GPS things. So they end up going further back to the past, and when they go to find the Tesseract, there's a lot of fun stuff where Tony gets to talk with Howard.
Yeah.
And he says his name's what was his name? It was Howard
Potts.
Potts.
Yeah.
That's right, Howard Potts. Which I like to think that's what leads eventually to Pepper getting hired, down the way that Stark had written down. He met Howard Potts. They had a great conversation. So, they think that Pepper is a descendant deep down. That's just my headcanon type stuff.
That's cool.
No, that was fine. That conversation worked well based on its context. But again, I was just complaining that the TV characters weren't included. The one TV character who's transitioned to the movies is Jarvis from Agent Carter. Bullshit.
Yep.
That pissed me off. Anyway,
I do think it helps too because I found this out when I researched the screenwriters. They also wrote the first 2 seasons of Agent Carter. So Marcus and McFeely. So I don't know if they ever worked on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it makes sense that, of course, they'd add their character to the movie in a flashback.
it's so weird because that show was so dull. That was such a dull show.
Yeah, well, I liked that first season. Like, we never finished the second season, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
It's in Cap. And he, like as soon as Tony met Howard, I was like, Cap's going to see Peggy. Peggy's going to be walking around somewhere.
Because they go to Camp Lehigh. So they know that's where the S.H.I.E.L.D. secret base is, and they also kind of know that Hydra's under there too, so they have to be extra careful to not be seen. And Cap goes and ducks into this office, and it ends up being Pigs, and he can see her through the blinds, and you get this wistful feeling where I started to cry, because that's the one relationship that hits with me is Cap and Peggy. Any moment of them from the Cap movies, it gets me. So to see this. And him like wanting to reach out to her, but knowing that he can't, because what would that do to her as well as him?
As someone who doesn't really care about Captain America: The First Avenger, the relationship doesn't really mean that much to me.
Right.
Which doesn't mean I'm going to complain about stuff later. It's because it's fine for his character that he gets his happy ending, but I don't really care about it on its own, if that makes sense. So they get that stuff, and they all come back. I mean, I guess if I have any complaints about all the time travel stuff here before we get to Nebula and War Machine, is that it feels oddly kind of just like, we're time traveling now. Like it doesn't feel hard, or it doesn't feel like there's any this is like a really weird hard mission we're doing here.
This easily could have been its own movie.
It could have been,
there's so much they could have done, and it's I think I don't know. I feel like maybe I could complain about it in other movies, but I feel like everything works in this. Like the gags are funny, and then the emotional beats are really well done, so it's like I can't really complain too much. Like it is really fun and like a cool idea, and again, since it is a culmination of everything and you are revisiting the past, I think it works. But there's probably like little like nitpicks and stuff you could
there's
get out
nitpicks,
of it.
but it's what it is. And Thor and Rocket go to Thor: The Dark World to get the ether out of Jane, and he gets to talk to his mother, and she like knows like, hey, you're older, you're not my Thor, you're
I
older
love how
Thor.
he tries to pass it off, despite the fact he's like 40 pounds heavier, and Mom had just seen him earlier in the day, not 40 pounds hevier. And then she's like, "You seem different." He's like, "Oh, it's my jacket. I wear this when I'm cold." Like he tries to pass it off.
I did laugh a lot though, because obviously Rocket's like saying, "Let's hurry up. I've got the stuff. Let's go." I almost wish there was just more hijinks with Rocket, because that moment where he's sneaking behind Portman, I thought was really funny, and then I'm running around from all those Guardians.
Him running from the King's Guard, basically. Like it weirdly reminded me of Indiana Jones from the beginning of Raiders, where the natives are chasing him to the plane. But yeah, no, that was a nice moment, because he gets to talk with his mom, and she's like, "You can't pull one past me. I was raised by witches."
Yeah.
God, when it happens, like,
and the lesson's basically, stop trying to be who you think you are or who you're supposed to be, and just be who you are. And that's kind of like the lesson he takes like throughout the movie with him. But of course I laughed when he pulls out his hand from Mjolnir, and it does come, and he's like, still worthy.
Still worthy.
See,
yeah,
I thought it was going to be more of a thing, like they were going to do more of an unworthy arc or something, like with that. But I mean, it's definitely great to see him get the hammer and stuff. But
we watched Ragnarok last night with my niece. She hadn't seen it yet, and so going back through there and knowing what becomes of Thor after that, the whole message of that movie is the hammer doesn't make him worthy. It's not like the comics where there's this magical enchantment. Yeah. It was his own, self-worth is in the end of the day that made him worthy, because he's the god of thunder, not the god of hammers. So that works. That still in his mind now, after this talk with his mom, of course he's worthy. Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of deal. At least that's how I took it.
But then,
you need Mjolnir in play for something later.
Oh no, definitely, and that makes a lot of sense. But then it also does make me think of what that would do to the timeline, because if Mjolnir's not there now, like
no. Cap takes Mjolnir back at the end.
Oh, okay.
He's got it with him when he's taking the stones back.
All right.
Mjolnir's return, just like the stones are. Anyway,
okay.
So that's them, and then the final one is War Machine and Nebula, who are basically going to the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I laughed so hard, because you get the scene again where Peter's Quill's dancing around with the music, but it cuts to like War Machine and Nebula watching them, and they can't hear the music because it's all in his headphones. And I was like, this is actually really funny. This is such a fun way to poke at the old movies and say, hey, look at this. This is stupid. Look what he's doing.
And I love Nebula. He's an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. But they start playing with this thing where Nebula in 2014 starts to like get weird like cross wires and signals with like Nebula from the future, and I'm like, holy shit, Thanos is going to realize they're up to something. And I don't think I would ever have predicted before I saw this that the Thanos they're going to fight in the third act is actually Thanos from Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Yeah. So that was my thing too. There's so much stuff that because of production slips that I had seen, I thought I knew where this was going. And then like even that last trailer or that last TV spot where you see the Avengers Trinity converging on Thanos, it's still, even though you know all the stuff, there are parts of this movie that I could have never have guessed. Yeah. Even if I, tried.
There's one big.
This is one of them.
Obviously, I love that this leads to like why they have a big final battle, and it feels quite dark. Because I started to get really anxious when I was like, wait, Thanos is learning what they're doing. Because he plays back like the whole conversation about them coming from the future and stopping Thanos, and because it's like the meeting they had like when they were talking about the plan, and he sees everything.
Yep.
And I was getting really anxious about it, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool in terms of like stakes. This is definitely the most threatening I've felt a Marvel villain ever.
Oh man, so here's the thing with Thanos is in the first movie I kind of get where he's coming from, because there's a sense of the greater good, and he almost has noble intentions despite going about it like the most evil way possible. This Thanos, once he finds out that ultimately he succeeded, but it was at the cost of his own life, and he's just like, okay, lesson learned. Now I'm gonna do it the most evil way possible.
I don't think I got that it was because it was the cost of his own life.
No, but it was the way in which that it happened. He wants to do it where that's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, but it's nothing to do with him dying, though. It's to do with the fact that he succeeded, but the people who are left are just trying to fix what he did rather than actually try to move on.
That's a better way what I was getting at.
So he wants to. He's like, no, I'm just going to kill everyone this time and just start new people. Therefore, they will not miss what they lost because they never remember it. It's like, okay, all right. He's going to one more day it. Fine. That's what he's going to do. Anyway, so. There is one logic problem here, is that Nebula had one vial of like Pym particles to get back. Yeah. So, evil Nebula from 2014 comes through pretending to be new Nebula, so she can like work the machine and bring Thanos and that through. I mean, one quick scene of like Thanos having like his scientists like duplicate the Pym particles or something would have been enough to explain this, but it was just kind of weird.
Or even the Squidward face dude, like Him using his dark magic or whatever to copy it.
So even if you just literally handed it to him and said, "Can you copy this?" and him go, "Yes," and that'll be it. That's enough. But so they get it back. And I love the debate because Thor's like, "I'm going to snap this back into reality."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Nah, Thor, you're in no position to be doing any snapping. You're drunk. You're foolish."
One thing that I think is like kind of funny, like I mean, I get why they do it because you kind of, have like a representation of this power or whatever. But I'm kind of like, I don't think you need to snap. Like, I don't think that's an important component to like as long as you're wearing the glove.
Visually and storytelling wise, it resonates.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I just think it's just kind of like funny to me that everyone's like we gotta do the snap. Oh no, make sure he doesn't do the snap. It's like, well, as soon as you have the glove, you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Also, I think it could do a lot of other things than just kill half the people or bring back half the people. Like,
well, and that's my question. There is when that happens, why couldn't you bring back the ones that were sacrificed through the stone?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I guess the angle they probably have is that there's something special because it's stone related that they were sacrificed, that there's some type of limits to it. Yeah. But I feel
because it's not like theoretically can they bring back everyone who's ever died? They probably can, but there's a reason why you don't mess with the rules of reality like that because it's wrong.
Sometimes that's better, right, Jimmy?
They're just trying to undo what Thanos did, and that's all they want to leave it at. So Hulk does it, and I did kind of like the Hulk's like, hey, most of the radiation's gamma. It's like I was built for this. Like this is almost like why I became the Hulk, was to be able to do this. And it's really hard, but he snaps. And
also,
the birds...
I don't think they really mention it that much in the movie, but at least in the comics, he has a healing factor that I don't know that would probably help with this.
It probably will heal. I don't think he's burned on his his arm forever, but
because we do see that 21 days later with Thanos in the beginning, he's still pretty jacked up from it.
Yeah.
So
birds come out and then the phone starts ringing and it's Hawkeye's family and he hears the voice and it's like, and I'm like, wait, so everyone's back? The rest of the heroes are back now, but of course Thanos just came through the portal. He's above and he bombs the shit out of the Avengers building to the point where I thought most of them were dead and there was going to be more time travel. I actually thought there was going to be more time travel to fix this. But I love how it completely decimates the building and it's like, okay, we have to get together and fight. And we have the Trinity go out and fight them as Hulk's just barely keeping the building up because it's about to crush Rocket and War Machine and whatever.
Yeah. A nice little nod to I forget which issue it was, but that was a big part in the original Secret Wars miniseries. There was like a whole like mountain gets blasted. I forget if it's by like Doom or the Beyonder or whoever, but basically like the Hulk is just holding like this whole mountain from coming down on everyone.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And this basically starts the final like chunk of the movie where
sequence.
Yeah, because this big fight lasts a long time, and it's kind of like even before everyone else shows up, it's like obviously I come out of this movie, I'm thinking if they get Mjolnir back, and at this point they've got it back because Thor's dual wielding, he's got the axe and he's got the hammer, he's going to battle with both, and I'm like, Cap's picking that up. Like if they don't have Cap pick this up, I'm going to be upset. And
I keep seeing that like headline that was going around like saying like Avengers is gonna recreate this like iconic comic moment scene, and I don't know, when I kept seeing like people like sharing that, I was like, Well, it has to be Cap picking up Mjolnir. Like I can't really think of what else would be
Well,
that iconic.
Even being a comic fan, like I didn't know this going in, he was going to, but I felt like they had to do it now, just like they have to have Cap say Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
You know, like this is it. Like this is your last chance.
Yeah, no, like it's bullshit that those articles even get spread around because it's kind of obvious what they mean, and it's bullshit.
Yeah.
But like the moment itself, you see it getting picked up, and it's like, who's picking it up? And we know who's picking it up, but it's like, you know, it's still playing the suspense. And
I actually think I maybe could have done with the scene without it rising up, because I think at that point it kind of felt like you knew what was already going to happen. And I don't know, for me personally, it might have played a little better just to see him then smacking Thanos with it. Like,
I think it's like a debatable thing, because I think the argument is that you know what's happening either way. The point is that it's just the build to it. Because it's the real. It's a lot like actually the Force Awakens, because the hammer hits him and then it comes back and then it goes into Cap's hand. And I think what impressed me about this segment of like we're doing this shit, because obviously there's other fun stuff here. Thor uses both to light up Iron Man, and Iron Man blast the shit out of Thanos.
Yeah.
And it's, but
19 maneuvers.
I think what I liked about this is that I was expecting him to pick it up, and I thought he'd maybe hit him with it twice, and that'd be it. Cap wields this thing for the rest of the fight. He strikes him with lightning. He like bounces his shield off of it. He throws it for Spider-Man to like web 2. He's doing things left and right.
My favorite one is he throws the shield like a baseball, and then with Mjolnir smacks it.
Yeah,
like you're doing drills in baseball practice. And then Thor yelling, "I knew it."
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, he does not waste it at all. They do everything you want to see Cap do with that hammer in a fight. He does, and it's
and he takes it to Thanos, and Thanos takes it right back to him, and it's a great fight. Especially after we saw what this Thanos. Well, did Thanos have the power gem going when he fought Hulk in Infinity War?
He had one. I think he had one already.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. I wasn't saying, because then we saw him. This is the same Thanos that we saw take Hulk out, and Cap with Mjolnir's holding his own. Yeah. But if he had the Power Stone, that makes a little bit more sense.
No, this is great, and then obviously later it's like they swap weapons for a second and thought, you take the little one.
Yeah.
But no, it's everything you want from that moment, and you have Hawkeye running around with a gauntlet, and trying to make sure Thanos. Because I love how this becomes a game of we can't let Thanos get to that gauntlet.
Oh yeah,
Matt, you make Matt, you make Jesus. Why does it take you so long to recognize that we're saying Matt?
Oh, because you said your mic, and then
said it 4 times, Matt. My ears, my poor ears. Anyway, what you said?
Well, no, it becomes a game of keep away. With the Infinity Gauntlet, and Spider-Man has some great moments with it, because
if we're talking, I'm going to talk about those moments. Let's talk about the moment, because.
Yeah.
So it gets to this point where Cap gets beat back. Iron Man and Thor kind of both been knocked down somewhere, and he gets up and he tightens his shield, and it's like he's going to take him on still himself.
His shield's broken too.
His shield's broken in half. And you just hear, "Hey Cap, can you hear me?" And it took a second to realize it was Falcon, right? Yep. And then he says, "On your left," and I'm like, "Okay, that is a fantastic callback." That's start a Winter Soldier, and then the portal opens up and he comes flying out, and then Black Panther comes out of another little portal, and it's Doctor Strange portals, right? It's those they're sorcerer portals. And then the music starts ramping up, and you get the big shot of all the portals opening. You see Wasp show up, and it's a big deal that Wasp is there, because Wasp isn't even in an Avengers movie before. This is the first time she's interacted with any of these characters. Pepper shows up in Iron Man armor, or her iron armor, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
It took me a while to figure out who that was. I was like,
really?
Guys, at this moment, I started crying happy tears. I could not control it.
Well, here's the thing. So they're all coming out, and the music's really sort of swelling at this point. And then once it gets to a certain point, there's like a big shot of all the portals opening, and the armies, the Wakandan armies coming through, the Valkyries are coming through. And it starts the main theme build-up that's played in the original Avengers right before Hulk said, "That's my secret, I'm always angry," and he hulks out. Yeah. The dun-dun, 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 right? That starts building up, and I was like, okay, we're doing this moment, but we're doing it with like 5 times as many characters. This is kind of cool. And then it did this thing where because we heard this again in the last movie, Infinity War. It happened when Thor arrived in Wakanda. They did the same thing with the dun 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 dun, and then main theme kicks in. It did this thing where it sort of got to where it would kick in the main theme, and then sort of looped back around and started building even more. And I thought, holy shit, he's going to say it. Like the way it was building up, I was like, he's going to say it right now. And there's even a pause in the music that wasn't there before, but before the main theme kicks in, that's when he says assemble. And I'm like, this is everything. This is everything anyone wanted from this. It's him yelling that, and like everyone that's been in all the movies just together.
All right. So here's what drove me crazy about this. Obviously, like, this is such a cool, like, nerdy fan service, awesome moment that it is getting you hype. So the guy next to me. Every time.
Here's 3 claps.
No, all right. I would have been okay with that. Not even claps. But what happens is every time someone shows up on screen, he would lean forward and go, "What? No way!" Which, like, all right. So once the portals start opening, if you have that initial surprise, that's fine. But I kid you not, he did it every time a character appeared. Like after Black Panther, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch show up, like you think he would understand what's going on, but he still kept getting surprised. Like, oh, what? They're bringing him in too? Oh my god, I didn't think. Oh, that person,
Timmy,
that
I'm
person.
sorry, bud.
It's everyone. Everyone's here.
It's insane. It's like, all right, once they show like whatever 19 out of the 20 characters or whatever, you think you would get the gist. But even like that very last person, you still had to be like, no way, I can't believe they did it. Like, what is surprising to you? It drove me crazy.
Yeah. Hashtag
cool
where
stuff.
was Quake? Just throwing that out there. This was a
Daredevil,
moment.
bro.
I'll take Daredevil too, but I want Quake.
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously all hell breaks loose here. We get all the the keepy up with the glove and Spider-Man grabbing at Mjolnir because we had to have that moment. And even Cap calling them queens, which is a reference to Civil War.
Yep.
All these things, Cap and Spider-Man hugging. It's full of these moments, and I actually love the moment where Captain Marvel shows up, where because Thanos realizes that his army's losing the fight, and he's like, basically bombard us. I don't care that my army's down here. Bombard us, just do it. And it starts blasting them, and the sorcerers are trying to like block it with magic.
Yep, with shields.
And then the giant Thanos ship turns and starts aiming up into the sky. And it's like, what are they shooting at? And I actually, you know what? It's kind of obvious in hindsight, but it never even clicked right away who it was, what they were aiming at.
Me neither. And it feels so
when there's
dumb
like
after it
50
happens.
characters. Oh yeah, I had no idea, but it's like, when there's like 50 characters on screen, you're not thinking about the one that isn't, and then once you kind of start to see the glow, you're like, oh shit.
I'm thinking because of all the time shenanigans, like, is this like one of the big cosmic entities of?
Sure.
Is this one of the Celestials? Is what we're like?
Kurt Russell.
Yeah. One of the Watchers coming down to actually intervene.
Nope.
And then no, of course not.
It's Captain
Dummy,
Marvel.
It's Captain Marvel
coming through the ship in one flying move and like just wrecking the ship into pieces. And she gets some great moments here. We have the A-Force moment with all the female characters. Which that was one of those moments where like I liked that moment a lot, and but in the back of my head I was going, I can already hear the assholes on the internet. I've already
heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already heard
I do kind of wish like we. Yeah, I kind of wish we saw a little bit more of him, because it would have it was definitely a very badass moment, but I feel like we didn't get to see him fight too much.
I think what's impressive about it is that I didn't realize we had that many. And I was like, Gamora pops in, Nebula pops in, Wasp's there, it was like, okay, Shuri, like, this is quite a lot. More than I expected.
And then and we kind of glossed over, but I did also, I actually really like the Scarlet Witch in these movies, and I thought she, it was cool when she was kind of holding her own with Thanos.
Yeah.
Well, because she did the best job in the last movie. She was holding him off like quite successfully.
And so wait, I forgot that is there no chance of resurrecting Vision? Oh well, I guess they have their own show, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe in the show.
I think they can, but it won't be the same one. You know what I mean? Like it's a new person. It's not the same.
I mean, we'll see. I expect him to pop up somehow. But I actually liked her thing where she's like, because from her perspective, she watched Vision be killed 5 minutes ago, and he's like, I don't even know who you are. And she's like, you will, and she's like, just unleashing hell.
Not only that, she had to destroy him and then go and watch Thanos
Yeah.
do that and then kill him again. And it's like, oh yeah, no, if there's going to be any storyline like in the comics where she breaks, I'm sure that's the crux moment.
And I love the scramble is like the gauntlets like right in front of Thanos, and they're like, you know, Captain Marvel jumps in, no cells ahead, but like, and you know, he's about to win, and like Iron Man just kind of like sleight of hand just takes the gems into his own glove. And like, you know that he's about to die. Like he can't contain this energy. He's human. He can't do it.
Still wasn't ready for it.
And it was kind of perfect because I wasn't expecting a callback to the first Iron Man the way this did, where he's like, you know, I am Iron Man. He says the line from the end of the movie, but it's right after Thanos says.
Oh yeah, he says like I am inevitable or something.
Yeah, that's his catchphrase in this one.
He's like, and I am Iron Man, and like, you know, he makes them all fade away. And that's kind of the big moment, and he's dying, and it's kind of sad, and all the rest of it. And it was nice that Pepper was there. It was nice that Rhodey was there to kind of have these moments, and you can finally rest. You know, all the sad stuff. And we knew someone was going to die because it's like
I knew that the ledger wasn't going to be clean, but like just the emotional way in which he went out, and when she's like, "You can rest now," and because we know he never rests. That was her whole thing with him at the beginning of the movie. So, oh man.
Here's my one weird complaint, because obviously the funeral scene is great, and the camera going around everyone who's there, ended on Nick Fury, the kid from Iron Man 3 is there, who's everyone didn't, no one recognized him because he looks completely different because he's aged.
Because he's a teenager.
I had no idea who it was.
But like, so here's the weird thing about this. So they put out this float, and it's got the proof that Tony Stark has a heart thing, right?
Yep.
And I was like, I was expecting the camera to like go over and reveal like something for Black Widow, because like, she's not had a funeral yet. Why is this not like a dual funeral for her too? And it felt really weird to me that she was not getting the send off. It was like, why? Like, she also sacrificed herself to save the day. Just because she did it earlier doesn't make it less important.
Yeah. No, I
can't remember audiences to remember something that happened 2 hours ago, though.
It was weird. But we get these little moments with lots of people. You know, Hawkeye like says bye to Wanda, and we see Thor kind of gives Asgard, or New Asgard, to Valkyrie, joins the Guardians of the Galaxy, which makes me think that he's just going to be in Guardians 3. Which is, Joe, what's so weird about that is that, like, at one point it was rumored that when we didn't think Gunn was coming back, that Waititi would do Guardians 3. And I think the weird thing here is if Thor was going to be in it, and it's going to be like as Guardians of the Galaxy, as he jokes, it's like, it would almost feel like, okay, this is a fairly decent compromise, because it's kind of like the Ragnarok Guardians movie, right? But no, Gunn's back, so we'll get that in like 3 or 4 years. So
and him and Quill instantly fighting over who's the leader. Like,
it's great.
There wasn't enough Drax in this movie, but he made me laugh with these, like, you should fight with knives, and then, you know. That was the other thing that made me laugh so much, is see when Rocket's upset about losing the Guardians, and he's like, oh, and Quill and Gamora and Drax and her with the antennas.
So
great.
wait, now I have a question. Is Gamora like from the past just kicking it somewhere?
I think so, because I think Gamora from the past is going to be Gamora with the Guardians now. Like, maybe they'll win her back in the next. I jokingly said the third Guardian is going to be Guardians 3: The Search for Gamora. Because I feel like
it could be.
I feel like they're going to like have her progress to the point, because obviously this Gamora hasn't met Quill yet. So, and at least there's some fun jokes.
She like knees him in the nuts.
Yeah, knees him in the nuts, and then she's like, seriously, this guy? Nebula's like, it was him or a tree. That was good fun. But so we have all these, and obviously you see Hawkeye go back to his family, and that's all happy. We see who else do we see?
The end of the for some reason I found this oddly touching, just the end of the funeral with Happy just talking to
daughter,
Iron Man's kid.
Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers, yeah.
That's when the guy looked over at me and was like, dude, get control. Just because everything was hitting just at one time.
Here's a logical thing they have to explain in Spider-Man. Peter, you see him go back to school, and Ned's there, and he's like hugging him, and I'm like, okay, Ned's the same age. I guess he dusted as well, because everyone who was dusted has basically just teleported to the future, essentially, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, wait, so obviously MJ and like you know, and like Flash and everyone else, all the other like sort of main characters of Spider-Man's world all have to have been dusted because they're all going to be the same age in the next Spider-Man, which is fine. But like, I don't know, it felt a little bit weird. I was like, wait, oh, he's the same age. I guess he was dusted as well.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see how they handle that in Spider-Man. How much of this to bring up. And you know, and acknowledge the fact that they all, you know, were missing for 5 years and how weird that is. And was Aunt May dusted, or was she like, you know, miserable without Peter for 5 years, thinking that he was missing?
I'd rather have her dusted because the thought of her, waiting for him to come back after that monologue in Homecoming about she's already lost so much, I couldn't handle it.
I like the idea though of her being older and still like looking like that.
Aunt May just stays hot forever.
Doesn't Tony call her your weirdly attractive aunt?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. So we have a lot of these little coda scenes, some of which are clearly into things. Do you know what I think is really funny though about all these like Disney TV shows? Loki, WandaVision, and in the Black Widow movie, all of these things are like, but most of these characters are dead or or shouldn't be around for more movies.
They're keeping us on our toes.
What's going on here? And obviously the final kind of coda is Cap, where we get him, you know, Hulk's there, and he doesn't really get an ending for himself, but he sends Cap back to deliver Mjolnir and the stones.
Because Cap's the one that they can trust is going to put them back where they belong.
I mean, this could almost be a whole movie. Like, how do you put the Soul Stone back? I don't know. Anyway, and also if he does that, it means he's running into Red Skull, which is an interesting meeting in and of itself.
I want a knockout, drag-out fight between those two.
Oh god.
Yes.
But yeah, and it's this thing where you can kind of tell he's probably not coming back, and it seems like Bucky might even already have an idea he's not coming back. Whereas, you know, Falcon's like, hey, like, Hulk, fix this, and Bucky's like, no, over there in the seat, and it's like old man Cap, and the idea is that Cap has went back in time and he has spent his days with Peggy, and that's the final shot of the movie. Is him dancing with, you know, he finally got that dance. He finally got that dance with Peggy, and that's cool. That's fine. The way I'm going to choose to interpret this so that it doesn't mess with the timeline is that Peggy, when she said she was married in Winter Soldier, she was always married to Steve. She was just keeping it a secret because she couldn't tell anyone
because of time.
Yeah. But she was always married to Steve. Steve always went back and always lived out these days with her.
So spoilers for what was that? Whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow story, Superman, right? But that's what happens with Superman is he dies, right, fighting Lex Luthor. But turns out he doesn't die. He lives his life as a completely different person with Lois Lane as her new husband. And like, so the fact, like in the most recent Superman movies, like even going back to Returns, I have not got a proper Lois Clark relationship, right? Like pretty close on Supergirl, but in the movies definitely not.
Yeah.
This is my Lois and Clark relationship, and it was like it's even worse because it's doomed from the start.
Yeah.
So the fact that I get this scene where they get the dance and like, oh man, it's everything I wanted for Cap. Like he gets his happy ending. I kept telling my wife who's huge Cap fan. And the funny thing is, Timmy, I don't know if you remember this, but Mario messaged me right after the movie. And we had this shared thing where, like, we workshopped Cap's ending sitting in your living room when I was there for WonderCon. Like...
Oh, did we predict that?
Yeah.
I forget.
I mean, not in the same exact way, but, like, along the same lines. You know, I mean, Mario, like, you know what'd be cool?
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, I think I do remember that. Yeah, like, you're talking about... Yeah, finding a way for them to go back and be together. Oh, that's
so like, it's not one of these things where I'm like, hey, look, I figured it out, but like, it was the most fitting thing for Cap.
I almost wish they didn't actually show us it though, because I felt like when Sam says you need to tell him about her because he sees the wedding ring, he's like, no, I think I'll keep that to myself. I almost wish they kept it like ambiguous, and it's like we will all assume that he went back and married Peggy, but we don't really know for sure. But they show us it immediately.
So on Thursday, Pete had already seen the movie, and there's a spoiler thread in our Facebook group, and I'm thumbing through it looking for something else, and I happen to see a spoiler thing, and so I asked Pete, is there any way for me to hide that so I can't see it? He's like, unfortunately, no, just ignore it. but the one comment was, "Poor Sharon." And zero context for this. So going through the movie, I'm like, "Where's Sharon? Did something bad happen to her?"
You thought she was gonna die. No, I was saying poor Sharon because let's ignore the fact that he was making out with his niece in Civil War, or Peggy's niece specifically. He goes back in time and shacks up with Peggy, so Sharon's just left hanging in present day.
And so it all clicked. Finally, I was like, "Oh, that's what he means. Oh, that's actually even worse than what I thought it would be." So, but again, nothing too spoiler. That was
and let's talk about Cap picking his successor. Falcon gets the shield and is going to be the new Cap, which makes the Falcon Winter Soldier show a really interesting prospect now. Like, is this like him? Like, he's got the shield, but he's refusing to go by that name, and it's like Bucky trying to convince him, "Hey, he handed it off to you. You should do this." Yeah, which is interesting. That's a TV show. I mean, does that mean that it leads to a Captain America movie with Falcon, or is it going to be this kind of thing where they just save it for New Avengers? And because right now in my head I'm thinking, right, they'll go a few years without an Avengers movie, but New Avengers will probably be Captain Marvel, Falcon, Cap, hopefully Spider-Man if they can get the deal worked out, Black Panther, maybe Doctor Strange, and which Shang-Chi that they're doing. Scarlet Witch as well. Scarlet Witch will still be there, I presume. Yeah. Maybe
don't forget the Eternals. They're bringing them in for whatever reason.
Yeah, but will they be in the Avengers though? I don't know.
I don't know.
The thing, because they said they're not going to do X-Men for 5 years. That this next phase does not have them in it, and which is kind of nice in a way because it lets us settle a little bit from the past movies, and then it means that it's going to be super exciting when they say, "Hey, it's X-Men time." So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I have some nitpicks. Obviously, I've commented on some logic things and some of the time travel stuff, but ultimately, this was really pleasing. And like all the big moments that paid off and referenced old stuff, and the character arcs. Tony finally sacrificing himself, which was something that was talked about in Avengers 1. Cap finally sort of resting and getting his happy ending. And it leaves all these new characters off where I'm excited to see more Scarlet Witch and I hope Ant-Man and Wasp are still a thing, and I hope like all these other characters who didn't get the send off. I think the original 6 are mostly done, except outside of like Hawkeye's TV show, and I think Hulk's the one. Well, Hulk and Thor. Thor's going to be on Guardians, and then Hulk I think still going to be around in some capacity. But I'm excited for all these things, and that's nice.
Yeah. So for go ahead, Tim.
The Black Widow solo movie, that is 100% confirmed, or is it just rumor?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
No, they've cast characters. They've got they've got a script, director. They have
a director, right?
I think so. They've definitely got a script, and they've definitely cast actors because Florence Pugh was cast in it. And it sounded like it was going to be a passing the torch thing, but given that she's dead, I think they did confirm it was a prequel at some point. Yeah. So.
Well, they can only say so much.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to give too much away.
And I think Feige did confirm that Spider-Man Far From Home does take place after Endgame. It starts almost immediately and is kind of an epilogue to Phase 3.
Nice.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting. We'll see how that goes.
And is that the last
Phase 3
movie in the Spider-Man
deal,
Sony Marvel deal?
And the current deal, yes. I mean, I have to imagine they're working out a new one. Yeah, I have to imagine they are. I hope they are.
So real quick, Black Widow does have a director.
Does okay.
So
cool.
Yeah,
that's happening. No, I mean
the Farley brothers.
What we have confirmed for coming up, we have Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, Guardians 3, Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, Captain Marvel 2 is pretty much a dead cert. Is that everything? Maybe Ant-Man 3? Maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's interesting. And I would expect some kind of new Avengers at the end of the phase. If they even go down that route, maybe they'll do something different, something weirder. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's possible.
It really does. Man, I love all these movies and stuff, and it really does bum me out though, because I like my favorite Marvel character hands down is Daredevil, and I do like the show somewhat, but man, I would much rather just see him have his own movie.
I'll be honest, Tim, I think eventually they're going to just ignore those shows and just do movies, at least for Daredevil.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe not the others, but Daredevil I think will get a movie that'll just ignore the show, and it'll just be the Daredevil in the actual MCU will be in the movie.
Yeah,
that stinks.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it
Hey,
happening.
that means Iron Fist gets a do-over. So yay!
Yeah. That'd be good.
That's it. I haven't seen the second season, but
I mean, my big thing is like, if they would ever want to go down this route, but I would love if they, really start to dip into like the horror side, like, getting some Werewolf by Night, or another
Morbius
Blade
the
movie
Living
would
Vampire.
be great. I'm sure it's gonna be bad, but I'm
Sony's
interested
doing
in
that,
that.
you know, it's just happening.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Jared
Forgot
Leto
about that.
is Morbius.
I hear that name and I try to put it out of my brain.
I know. Yeah, actually, one of the things I wanted to sort of mention here at the end of this is that, as a DC fan, there's like a bittersweet tinge to watching this because it's so good and they've earned like everything that it's like pulling off. And there, as a DC fan though, who cares about DC characters just inherently more, because I feel like a lot of the characters in this I care about in these movies. I don't necessarily care about Iron Man in the comics. Anytime I've tried to read Iron Man in the comics, I'm like, it's fine, but I'm not feeling it. But as a DC fan, like, I'm watching this and I'm like, that moment where the Captain Marvel goes through the ship, her entrance, I'm like, that could be Superman in a crisis.
Yeah. I mean, in the Infinity War, when like Thor is holding open the
that's
shield,
Superman moment.
It's All-Star
like,
Superman
such a,
kind of thing. Yeah. Like, it's just, it's not a begrudging thing. It's just like, I wish like DC could also pull this off, or that they did pull this off, and instead we got Zack Snyder. And I don't want to go down like a path of that. I just wanted, like, I'm watching this and I'm like, why couldn't we also have this?
Well, there's this, like, we all know how you feel about Star Wars, but like me and Tim both really like Star Wars, and I can say there hasn't been anything for me in these new batch of movies that have made me feel like Endgame, like, and as much as I enjoy the greater majority of them, and the parts I don't enjoy I can still get past, but and that's a franchise that I think is mostly working, unlike the DC stuff, so. It's just it's a magical confluence of events. I feel like it's something that was a long time coming. They put the right creatives there, and they stuck the landing, which is super rare. Like, I can't even say like a lot of the trilogies I enjoy, the last movie sticks the landing. So
yeah, it's interesting that like all the characters started off in solo movies, but all their endings, at least for Iron Man, Tony, so Iron Man, Cap, and Black Widow, they're all in like the Avengers movies. It's just interesting. It's like this weird overlap of like two trilogies, or a trilogy and a quadrilogy that kind of connects them all. It's weird. No, it's an impressive feat, and I'll be interested to see how they move forward. We can't really, like, well, obviously I'm saving ratings till last. We can't wrap this up without mentioning the ridiculous box office that this movie's had this weekend. So just to put this in perspective, Avengers 1 was the first movie to ever have a $200 million weekend, the opening weekend, right? 207. That was like a huge deal at the time. It was like 50 more than the previous record holder.
Yep.
And then, Star Wars Force Awakens beat it, and then Infinity War beat that. And so the record as of last year with Infinity War was 257, which was about 10 or something more than what Star Wars did when that came out. Endgame has the estimate now sitting at $359 million. That is over $100 million more than the previous record. And I feel bad for theater employees, because basically what happened this time that allowed this to even be possible is theaters all over the planet have had 24-hour-a-day screenings for the weekend, and all I can think of is this is like Black Friday for theater workers.
I saw a post on Reddit that was like, "Hey guys, this is a theater worker. We're working overtime this weekend. Please, like, let's not leave this mess." And the mess that was left was spilled soda, popcorn buckets, because we don't have time to turn over the theater. So if you want to see the movie on time, let's be good. So
did you guys stay like till after the credits?
Well, I stayed through the sign-offs basically. Because and Robert Downey Jr. got a standing ovation from my theater. Like, when his image came up and from the Iron Man. But after that we left because it was late and I had to be up for work early.
There was nothing at the end. There was just a sound effect at the end. That was it. There was no post-credit scene.
Yeah, it was still kind of cool. It's the sound effect of like Tony hammering that you
Mhm.
kind of hear in the first movie, but then like as soon as it happened, like all the theater employees were like, "Guys, that's it. You gotta go. I'm sorry, but like really,
Yeah.
you gotta leave. Like please."
It's funny
Nice.
They're
actually because
they're nice about it, but you
yeah,
can tell they were like, I've
what,
heard other people are just outright telling people like, "Hey, there's no end scene
yeah,
if you
in
want
my
to leave."
screening, like after the sign-offs where like all the big actors got their titles
Mhm.
and they saved the original six for last and they got the signatures.
Yeah.
That was really cool. As soon as that ended, the lights came up a little bit, and an employee shouted out, "Guys, there's nothing at the end. You can stay if you want,
Right.
but seriously, there's nothing
Yeah.
at the end of this one." And I think it's because the Marvel movies have become this thing where you always get. And
Yeah.
here's the thing: do you think Spider-Man: Far From Home has a post-credit scene?
Yes. But I think it's one of the ones that's more like levity, like at the end of the last one that was Captain America coming and
That makes
talking. You know what I
sense.
mean?
Yeah.
It'll have a post credit, but I don't think it'll be setting anything up.
It's interesting because it's like they could almost like opt out of it now, but at the same time, it's like I get why this one doesn't have any because it's the end of the whole journey,
Yeah.
right? But are they going
You,
to start doing it again for Phase 4? Are we going to, I'm
you know what?
curious.
I actually kind of wish that they would have done is I wish they would have actually just showed the credits at the opening of the movie so that the whole movie was just like a post-credit scene. That would have been cool.
That's super meta, Tim.
That's
Yeah.
that's just
No, the
that's a
first
fun
Iron Man
idea.
didn't have one, right?
No,
Sorry?
that was Nick Fury.
Yeah, Nick Fury at the end.
Oh, there was. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Uh,
been
they've,
forever.
they've all
Yeah.
had. So I mean, there's been some. I mean, that only had one at the very end.
Yeah.
And then there's been some that only had one in the middle, but a lot of them have had one at both the middle and the end. And then Guardians
Yeah.
2 had like 6 sprinkled
Yeah.
throughout. Did Incredible Hulk had one right at the start of the credits? Because I think that was when they were still a bit nervous about people waiting to see
Yeah.
them, so they put it at the start of the credits. And then
Yeah.
after that point, they always put them at the end.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, because Iron Man 2 is a store because I'll never forget knowing that what it was,
Mm.
and Ash had to be up really, really early for like work, like at 4 in the morning, and we went to a midnight showing. So I'm making her wait through the credits, and she's like, "I want to go." I was like, "I can't leave yet," like because it wasn't a thing. And now I waited through Hellboy, not knowing, and there was post credit scenes in Hellboy,
Yeah.
like so.
I didn't. As soon as Hellboy was done, I was racing out that door.
You missed a great scene.
I'll live.
So,
I'll
so
live.
it's a ratings now. Like, what
Yeah,
are we?
ratings. Yeah, Timmy.
Maybe we should make Tim start
Yeah.
because of his letterbox.
That was more for humor, but no, I think I'm going to. I mean, honestly, it's a ton of fun. But I can't help but try to separate it from the theater experience I had, which was not fun. But like trying to look at it as a whole, I think I'm gonna give it a 9. I mean, it's amazing. I like it. It did what I wanted it to do. But I need to see it again with like a decent theater experience, and who knows, it could even go up. I forget what I gave Infinity War, but I really loved Infinity War, and I think I don't know if I like it as much as this, but maybe it's just a biasy thing in the theater experience. So who knows? Maybe the scores might flip flop or it might go up. But for now, I'm giving it a 9. But no, it's definitely solid and really, yeah, like Matt said, it sticks to the landing, which is a very incredible feat for what, the 22nd film in a series. Or,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so,
Does
yeah.
does the little man want to go to space? I'll take it to space, little man. Take it to space. Rocket's great.
Oh,
Should be more Rocket. Matt, what are you rating it?
So I'm gonna go full go and give it a 10. Like, yeah. I was looking back. I gave Infinity War an 8.5. So I tend to grade these higher, but like the number of times I was ugly, dude, crying throughout this movie, and just how much the emotional spots hit me, like, yeah, it's a one of a kind movie.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a 9. I think, obviously I had some nitpicks and some other things here or
Yeah.
there, and there's some stuff CG that was a bit wonky or whatever, but like, I think for me, this captured the feeling that I had back when I saw the first Avengers, and it, not that I would necessarily put this above the first one, just because I think the first one is going to have this special feeling forever, because it was this unique experience. I've never seen anything like that before. But this kind of neatly wrapped it all up, and there was, and I've been up and down with the MCU. There's been times where I've been kind of down on it, and there's been times where I've been up on it, and for every Winter Soldier, there's a Doctor Strange. For every Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a first Avenger, and it's rough. So no, 9. So what's that? What, 2 9s and a 10? That's pretty reasonable scoring. And as far as the insane box office goes, where it's broken the opening weekend without even including Sunday's numbers, and it's the worldwide opening weekend's 1.2 billion, which is, I mean, no movie's ever made $1 billion in one weekend before. That's new stuff.
Yep.
So that won't happen for a while, until James Cameron puts out another movie.
Nah.
Sure.
He won't break the opening weekend. James Cameron does not have opening weekends. James Cameron just has legs.
Yeah, he's a marathoner. He's not a sprinter. I still don't understand the Avatar numbers, but I don't know who he sacrificed, but it's worked to his advantage.
Oh dear. Anyway, so no, Avengers Endgame is total crowd pleaser. If you've liked the Marvel movies, and if you have or you haven't at this point, you're going to be pretty much in love with it. If you care about the characters, you care about how their stories end, there's so many fan servicey moments, but not in a bad way, because I often use that phrase in a bad way. That this is more, no, you've been waiting to see shit like this.
Yeah. It doesn't feel forced or cheap, all the stuff that you maybe would call fan servicey. It feels very well earned, and I think crowd pleaser is a very good way to put it. Can't really help but get excited when you see it.
Yeah. So there you go. That is Avengers Endgame. You can, of course, let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fudge for channel updates. You can, of course, get all three of us individually on the Twitters and Letterboxd and stuff like that. Tim's at Tim Vergulish on all these things. I'm at Wibble89, Matt's at Matt of Steel 57. You can, of course, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. If you want to support us over there, you can do that for as little as $1 per month. And you get some bonuses, you get some stuff early. And do check out our comic book podcast. We have Comics from the Multiverse, which is a DC comics show, and Elsewhere in the Multiverse, which is Marvel and other stuff. So check out those as well if you want to. And check out our other movie reviews and stuff. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. This has been a fairly meaty review, so thank you once again. We will see you next time. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.